Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Against the Grain with me, Abby, the Liverpool doula. This is probably the most requested episode that you guys have asked me for. It's a controversial one, it's a polarising one, but you're gonna fucking love it. I am here today with Dean Garnett, who I met a few years ago when we were out protesting and giving it absolute beans, having murder with the police. But today, we're going to talk about probably the most controversial subject
and the most important subject for any parent
on the planet, I would say.
Literally.
So yeah, today I'm going to start by saying, we can't say the word, but I'm going to start by saying childhood vaccines save lives. So we're going to call them pokes. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm going to say what everyone's probably thinking. You're an MMA fighter. Why do you think that you can talk about this?
No, it is a good point, and I understand people's thinking like, why would I listen to him? What's his authority on it? But
Yeah.
I said this before. I remember seeing a doctor saying like, I had 4 hours training on vaccines. That is true. In medical school, you get half a day. If you don't believe me, check out Heidi Larson from the Vaccine Confidence Project at the Global Vaccine Safety Summit. She spills all the beans and she says most doctors can't deal with people like me. People like me do 4 hours a day. Some days I'm obsessed with vaccines and I've been obsessed with them for 10 years now. And I spend at least an hour a day, most days, at least an hour reading into this stuff.
Okay.
It's an interest of mine, just like MMA is. But the reason I'm so interested is because what's more important than our children? Little babies who should we protect the most. I'd like to think I'm a man whose masculinity is intact in today's deranged society, and my masculinity does not allow me to just sit back and watch children be harmed in the name of virtue or science. So I'm all about questioning things where the safety of children's concerned.
Yeah. So I'll start with, and I don't know, I suppose I think we're similar. We're very fuck the system.
I know.
And if you're told to do this by the government, we're probably just going to go, I'm going to do the opposite because someone's told me to do that. How did you start looking into this? Because it's like, it's deep, isn't it? How did you start? Was it like an intuition? Was it an inkling?
No.
Okay.
So I was the opposite. I was on the other side of this, and I was in all subsets in schools, very academic, but my best friend was like the other end to me. He wasn't very smart. The teacher used to say, stay away from him, he's bad for you, Dean. I went, yeah, my best mate, so I went. So he was like, 9/11 was done by like Western governments. Bastards. Our government wouldn't do that. So it took me about a year to look into that, and then when I realised, oh, hang on, they would, because there's massive financial incentive. They can activate contracts worth hundreds of billions to their friends.
Okay.
So now it starts to add up. But then about 3 years later, we're like, vaccines aren't safe. No, they are. They're a scientific marvel. They say that we'd all be dead without them. You imagine me like that for 2 years, arguing with everyone. So I was very much the other side, appealing to authority.
And can I just say, those things you were spouting off, where did you got them messages from?
TV.
Okay.
You think it's from education, most of it's from TV. Okay. Now I look back and understand all that was TV programming. My initial response was often not even from school, it was from the TV. But anyway, most people who don't agree with the opposite to the mainstream are often regurgitating a program response.
Yeah.
So that got me on the path. It led me into something called Agenda 2030, and then I found something called Sustainable Development Goals. And basically I started to realise that everything was about vaccination. Why did I keep saying vaccination? So if you watch me 2019 podcast, well, it's gone now off the internet, but there's 2 clips on my page which I can't share. Scroll down, you'll see them. And in 2019, I said they're going to bring a vaccine out very soon, and they're going to basically try and take your passport away if you don't get it. Now, what a random thing to say, October 2019. No mention of COVID anywhere, not even a snippet. And I also talked about what's going to be called a real ID, or today digital ID, and how they were going to merge the two. And I even talked about things on that, like the trans agenda going to be really big soon. What else? I mentioned Epstein a long time before he was ever known.
I'll put in here though, and people will say, you probably shared more than I've shared, but when I used to share things, and we were very much in the same space with regards to the scamdemic, people would say, how do you know? It's all documented, isn't it?
What we got to think about it like this, right, is we are the builders of our own prison. I believe there's about 8,000 people, according to a really elite level banker who's blowing the whistle on whatever you want to call it. He was in it, and he reckons there's 8,000 people in it. So how can 8,000 people control billions of people. But it's through consent, through brainwashing.
Yeah.
And it's through these documents we're talking about. So these 8,000 people aren't doing the dirty work. People like me and you do it for a wage or a salary. Do you know what I mean? So they have to document what they're doing well in advance. So if you follow what's going on, you can start to predict what's coming next. It gets really easy.
Right. So we'll start at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Tell me the story of how pokes started.
To be.
Yes.
Now with anything, I take everything with a pinch of salt, because if you can control the past in people's minds, you can control how they see the future. So I don't take none of these narratives as on face value. Could be true, might not be true. But this guy, Edward Jenner, somehow realised that like people who'd been treated with cowpox didn't have a smallpox outbreak or whatever, weren't affected by smallpox. But it's probably a load of made up baloney in my belief system. It probably never happened, or he was in on it.
It's very convenient, isn't it?
Well, it was called variolation, I think, or variolation.
So I'll just say, if anyone's listening, don't know what I'm talking about. The story I heard was there was milkmaids milking cows. The cows had smallpox. This person noticed that the milkmaids were not getting as sick or dying from smallpox. So what they did is he would make a little wound on people's arms. Yeah. And he would put a little bit of the pus into the wound, and that would make them immune. However, I did bring this up on a past podcast with my homeopath, and she said, no. And people were dying from these.
Well, there's one of the first real big anti-vaxxers was a guy called Alfred Wallace.
Right. And
you've probably seen doing around on Instagram snippets of his book from the 1800s.
When it was warning.
Yeah. And he's saying basically that whenever people go and get smallpox, variolation or whatever it was called, now they're dying of like syphilis.
Oh.
Right. So, and smallpox went up. All the data's there.
Yeah.
So it's late 1700s. Yeah. Then going into the 1800s, they mandated it.
But apparently old children were dying.
Up to 3 months. Oh. So children at 3 months old had to go and get vaccinated, or mum and dad could get fined or go to jail.
Right.
And that led to something called the Anti-Vaccination Defence League.
Oh.
So there's always been, and that was when there was only one vaccine on the schedule.
So they've always been dangerous.
Yeah. So they've never been safe, and they've never been effective. Alfred Wallace proves from the government's own statistics, anywhere that they've done this cowpox thing, the rate of smallpox went up everywhere. Yeah. Now there was the stronghold against smallpox vaccination was Leicester, and in Leicester only 10% of people got vaccinated against smallpox.
And why was that?
Guess who had the lowest smallpox rate?
Leicester.
Guess who had the lowest syphilis rate?
Leicester.
Guess who had the lowest all-cause mortality at that time?
Leicester.
Yeah. So I
would say, and these people will probably go, correlation doesn't mean causation.
Yeah, well then, why does it mean? So I'm happy to say that it doesn't, that's true. But if you look at, say, measles mortality, from 1900 to 1960, that drops around 98%. Right? The vaccine doesn't come till 1968.
Was it
so
sanitation,
all these things. So how does that drop? So if we see this drop here, and now a vaccine comes in here, how does that cause it? There's not even correlation there.
No.
But we're on causation
of
nothing. And then I actually asked ChatGPT to make me this. I asked for a graph that had the decline of measles mortality and the rise of autoimmunity and autism. And basically the graph went down, then the pokes came in, and then all of a sudden autoimmunity and autism is on the rise. So that actually correlates. I'm not saying that's a causation thing. I think it is, but that's not true. So we've got the pro-vax side, doesn't even correlate, but it causates. And ours, it correlates, but it definitely is not causation. You know what I mean? It's proper double standards all the time.
It's literally absolute dissonance.
Constant double standards.
Okay.
Always.
So how did we get to the point, do you think, that the pokes have become, I mean, how old are you?
38.
When we were kids, how many pokes were children receiving compared to how many they're receiving now? Have they changed over the years? Is there more?
So, well, yeah, that's obviously like the rate of autism, for example, or the rate of chronic illness is steadily climbing. Yeah. Go again. So there's obviously been a massive increase in the number of pokes we give children. Yeah. But what I find interesting about this as well, everyone goes, oh, you know, back in the day everyone died before the pokes. I was like, no, there was like pokes for two things, and we actually lived in squalor. Yeah. So maybe then you could justify 37 pokes. But now we don't live in squalor. We've got all this boss medical technology. We've got antibiotic, penicillin. Yeah. We've got intensive care units. So why do we need 72 pokes or whatever it is now before you two?
Well, when you think about it logically as well, and also probably back then we lived a more tribal community life. We were in contact with more people. Now we live in our singular clean homes with less germs.
One of the reasons mortality was so high back then, it was the sanitation, right? But if you look at it, they were poisoning everyone all the time. Like polio, that started when we started spraying lead arsenic on the food. Now, why do we have unleaded petrol? Because it's neurotoxic.
Yeah.
So if you spray a neurotoxin on the food, how does it kill the bugs? Paralyses the bugs. I wonder what was paralysing everyone. And you know, polio was asymptomatic 99% of the time. Where have we heard that? Where have we heard that one before? So basically, it's all spins, it's all narratives from the very first one, smallpox, to today. Like some people think that the way the COVID, the pandemic went, was the first time they'd used this thing. No, go back to smallpox, polio, any of them. It's the same model on repeat. It's like massively. Well, first, there's an argument that on each of these we can demonstrate where they created a poison in the environment. Okay. Then there's an outbreak. It looks like it's contagion because people are eating the same fruit and they're in the same spaces, drinking the same water.
Yeah.
So they get sick together, you know what I mean? And then they release a poke, like in the case of polio. And then what they do is they rebrand polio and call it transverse myelitis or aseptic meningitis. So now you're not allowed to say someone's got polio. You've got to say it's that, especially if they've had the poke. So what happens now is it looks like in the data they've eradicated something. They haven't, they've just given a brand new name.
So, but could these illnesses be a side effect of an injection?
Yeah, most polio in today, if you look at the data, is they call it poke-derived polio. Okay.
So, I heard as well that polio can be other symptoms that'll just be labelled polio. Is that right?
Yeah, it can be, yeah. But again, you look at how they just move the goalposts. Like, it's really easy for them.
With regards to the government recommendations, government contracts, can you tell me how this is all happening to make money?
Yeah, so we touched on this before, didn't we, briefly? If you think about, like, everyone, oh, well, you know, GPs are incentivised to poke kids.
So this is the thing, so this is my argument. I say to people all the time, well, the GP's incentivised, they're making money, like, that's the main reason.
Well, it's positive reinforcement, isn't it? Like, when I'm teaching my kids' class, I reinforce the behaviours I want to see. So the kids who are good get a sticker or ninjas of the day.
Yeah.
You reward the behaviour you want to see. So in society, we do that with money.
Right.
And that's how we control adults, monetise things. But if you think about it, you would expect the GP's practice to be paid for everything they do. If they're fixing someone or treating someone or seeing someone, surely there's a cost and they make money on it. So for me, that's not the issue with the pokes. That might increase pressure, so it might affect the informed consent process for both.
Yeah.
But where they really make though, in my opinion, is the kids who get the pokes need repeat prescriptions. So my two kids have never had pokes and they've never had antibiotics and they've got no chronic disease and they have no prescriptions and they don't go to a doctor. They've got to register with a doctor, but they just seem to not need a doctor. I was going to say,
do they ever go?
But they don't need to. But me and my siblings were there every week. Ear infections, tonsillitis, asthma. I've got my inhaler in my bag. Still got it now. So I've been buying those products all my life. So I believe, you know, that I believe I'm poke injured. Most of us are poke injured. I
was going to say,
in my opinion. We're not, but we are.
I got a turn in my eye.
That's common.
And also, I think people think when babies have got like a little crooked smile.
That's linked to it.
I'll be honest, all my friends who do not give their children any kind of medication, including injections, none of them have seen doctors. Ever.
Yeah, and then I have got friends, family, you know, kids, my, you know, peers for the children. The ones who are not poked are definitely doing better health-wise than the ones who are. There's a guy called Paul Offit, famous anti-poke doctor nowadays, but I think he done a study on kids in his practice.
Is that the study?
3,300 and something kids, so a decent sample size.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's exponentially higher rates of chronic illness, infections, antibiotic use, and neurodevelopment issues.
So this is where I say, like, to women, when they give birth, when they're pregnant, I say, you know, look after yourself, whatever, stop yourself getting, you know, like a GBS infection, because they'll administer antibiotics to that woman. And then I say, well, your child is now already a customer because them antibiotics have destroyed their microbiome, which means they're going to end up with more autoimmune conditions, eczema, and then they're going to need medications for that. And that is how they get you on the conveyor belt. So even if they don't get you in the womb, they'll get you with these injections.
Yeah.
and this will cause further health issues.
It just creates a spiral, doesn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so...
What else I want to talk about? So we touched on it a second ago, and it was the amount of pokes.
Yes.
Now, when we think about ingestion
Yes.
and injection, right, they're vastly different.
Yeah.
Okay? Essentially, we're like a donut. Imagine a donut's got a hole in the middle.
Yeah.
Your mouth to your anus is a complete path.
Yeah.
You've essentially got a tube going through you like a polo.
Yeah.
Right? Now, that has design mechanisms, because we are perfectly designed, as we know. That has a design mechanism to help eliminate toxins.
Okay.
Right? So, let's use aluminium. There's 2 types of aluminium used in pokes.
Okay.
Now, aluminium is the 3rd most abundant element on the planet. It's in everything. Great. This isn't a rebuttal, guys. When it's in the Earth's crust, it's mostly binded to something called silicon. So again, people with dementia can reverse symptoms by drinking high silica water. Check out Professor Chris Exley. I'm going to lead on to him in a minute. But anyway, what we've got to think about is they fed rats. So they got rats and fed them aluminium. Aluminium hydroxide and aluminium phosphate are the 2 main components. They fed them aluminium. And that's where they've come up with the safety data, the FDA. I think it's something like 25 micrograms per kilo of body mass is safe.
But
right?
Are they talking about
injectable? No, but so they based injection of a baby on the ingestion of a rat.
Because I was going to say,
how does that make sense?
For example, I would say snake venom.
I like that one.
You can probably drink snake venom and it will go straight through.
It will do nothing to you.
But if you inject it into the bloodstream, you will die.
Yeah.
It's a complete different
mechanism. That just shows you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now, heavy metals, injecting them, eating them, probably not as bad as snake venom, because apparently snake venom was not until you ingest it. I remember having this time, someone said, yeah, but there's no proteins in vaccines. Snake venom's proteins, not the full of proteins. We're going to get onto that when we talk about ingredients and the full proteins, which is linked into the autoimmunity. But what I will say is, you've got all these pokes with all these repeat assaults of aluminium. Assaults. It's harmless apparently, but based on that study.
So is that the study that people will say?
Yeah, because you can't, they'd say it's unethical to just inject kids with aluminium until it's unsafe, right? Then there's another study by a guy called Florent, and that's from 1997. He took rabbits and he mixed a radioactive isotope with the poke. He administered the poke to the rabbit, and then 28 days later, he killed the rabbits and dissected them. And what they found was, because of the radioactive isotope, they were able to track how much aluminium stayed in the body. And it was, I can't remember which one was worse, phosphate or hydroxide, but one of them was 80% stayed in the organs and one of them was 95%. Now, they did do a study where they measured blood levels. Aluminium does not stay in the blood for long. The body wants to get rid of it. And this is where we have to look at individual differences. Me and you might not respond, like a lot of people have heard about the NFTHR gene, which is all about methylation, folic acid and all that type of stuff. So, people like that should eat 4 to 5 foods. Most foods are 4 to 5. So everyone's different, aren't they? So how I might process the toxin might be different to you. That doesn't say that, what doesn't mean it's the poke. We can both have a poke and have a totally different reaction to it.
I think that's one of the things that a lot of people will say, well, I had it and I was fine.
Another thing I'll say on that, right, is there was an organisation in Italy called Corvella, Corvela. Now again, if you use AI, you can get all these studies up and summarised dead easy. Now they broke open 16 vials of MMR, and what they found was horrific. It was horrific. They found some vials had little to no aluminium. Some vials had 1,000% more than what it said on the tin. So not only are people different, these vials are not even remotely linked. And what else they found that I found interesting is the proteins, the measles, the mumps and rubella, they didn't stay individual. They just glooped. So it's impossible to suggest that they created immunity with an MMR, because your body can't go, oh, that's measles, mumps and rubella just all glooped together. Can't. That can't be done. So I'd be surprised if it even works. And again, if you look, most outbreaks happen in highly vaccinated populations. Most people who get mumps are vaccinated, according to the CDC. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Outbreaks happen in highly populations all the time.
Is that because their vaccines are bad, or is it because their immune system is compromised?
No, I think it's neither. I think it's because the pokes don't do what they're telling you. So what they do is they give you a poke, and it has this antigen in, and your body has a certain response. and they do these things where they test your blood for titers and they go, oh, we had this person's immune. But really, if you go get 20 people who are infected, 10 of them might have the same titers. So what does it actually mean? I don't know. But what they're telling you is proof of immunity isn't.
Right.
So we're assuming things again. There's no proof. It's just more assumptions. You know what I mean?
And a lot of these outbreaks, are they from the injection?
The pokes can cause them, but often they're just not. Like, they can be off that. People share. But, like, I read 2 studies recently about the flu. One said, even though you don't get influenza, you have higher rates of non-specific flu. So you haven't got influenza B or whatever, you haven't got that one, but you get higher rates of the other 27. But what's the difference with them all? Is there a difference?
Is that what they're trying to say to sell it?
Well, it's what they're trying to do to make it not look as bad. Damage limitation.
One thing with the flu poke that I will say, I think it's the most wild thing ever, isn't it, where they take 2 strains, they'll guess, and then they'll roll it out the following year.
Yeah, it's all just, to me, it's just all, the devil is in the details. And this is all to bamboozle people. It needs to be complicated enough that no matter what happens, they can just explain it away.
With a complicated answer.
Just come up with some name. Have you watched, like, Dope Sick on
I haven't watched it yet.
If you watch Dope Sick, it's hilarious, but it's real. People watch that probably thinking it's not true. That is how the pharmaceutical companies operate. And all the people on our opioids are getting pain still. One of them's like, I know, we'll call it breakthrough pain. What did they call the people who had coke for COVID? I know, we'll call them breakthrough infections. So it's all semantics, and these people know exactly what's going on and what's not going on, and they're having a laugh, basically. They're mocking us.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so when I did my midwifery degree, I did a year, I was in class and they all used to look at me and be, Abby's the anti-Via. We were speaking about giving women the flu injection. And I said, well, in my experience, whenever I've seen anyone receive that, they've gotten sick. And the teacher said, no, that's wrong. And I said, well, so there's no reaction from them having this? Well, and I said, well, I've seen them get sick as soon. Well, they have an immune response. I said, well, is that not a reaction? And they just can't even, it's like the cognitive dissonance is so strong that, because one thing I will mention as well, which you'll probably know a little bit more about, Andrew Wakefield.
Yeah.
He's being slagged off, wasn't he?
But it's also being used as a psyop now. So most doctors think he's the only doctor ever to call out vaccines, and his is the only study ever. That's most doctors think that's the truth. The reason do you know why a study was pulled from the Lancet? Do you know why? It wasn't because the findings were wrong. That's not why the Lancet pulled it. It was because he took the blood samples from a kid's party and he paid the parents a fiver. So it was removed because it was ethically challenged. That's why it was removed. His findings were actually fair, and he actually called for further research.
So I was told in uni that he's being debunked.
Anyone who used the word debunked at this point is following the science, and they're usually the people who haven't got a clue, and they get all their information from the telly or pro mainstream. Okay.
With regards to a lot of the information being taught in like doctors, universities, whatever, am I right in the understanding that pharmaceutical industries will fund studies to support a drug or an agenda, and then this will filter down into doctors' education? Is that right?
Yeah, so what we're going to think about is science, academia, universities, pharmaceutical companies and government. Essentially, they're all inexplicably linked, aren't they? They all fund each other, the research, everything's kind of like, they all co-interact, don't they, or whatever. So you've got to look at how that system, like, you can't just run the pharmaceutical system corrupt if they're not all corrupt.
Okay.
Because they'll get onto you. If the academia and scientific industries were legitimate, then obviously Big Pharma wouldn't get away with any of this, would they?
No.
So for it to all work, it's all got to be corrupted.
Okay.
Right? So if we look at like the history of peer review, to me, right, what we have now is a modern day cult of scientism. So these are these people who think they're following science, and what they actually follow is consensus. They would be like, thalidomide's safe no matter how much you told them until it was on the telly. That's why thalidomide spent 5 years on the shelves even after the alarm was raised. Because it's easy just to vilify everyone. They were telling mums, no, it's not. It's because you're stressed. You've done this to the baby, not the thalidomide. You did it. Stressing, you big silly numpty. Wasn't us. Yeah.
How long did it take to filter through?
4 to 5 years it was on the shelf after the first cases of it started happening. For that to happen, what do you need? You need a completely corrupt system on all accounts. The government, academia, science, pharmaceuticals, and the media, they've all got to be in cahoots for this to work, haven't they?
Yeah.
And we know they are now. The pharmaceutical companies are the biggest sponsors of the media. Like, they pay for adverts in the States and stuff, but it's more paying for the narrative. It's paying for the mouthpiece. It's paying them to keep the mouth shut on certain things.
It's even like, now they've got social media, influencers being paid.
Yeah.
Wild.
But you get these people go, no, I'm not religious, I'm an atheist. Oh, you don't believe in the Bible? Matthew, Mark, Luke and John? No. How's that different from a peer-reviewed journal in the modern day? Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, not just a bunch of peers. That is still only something on a piece of paper that men have written. Politicians, everyone accepts as corrupt and easily bought. So are scientists, so are academics, so are government people. Anyone can be corrupted. And if we look at the peer review system, that was actually spearheaded by Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, Robert Maxwell. I'll let people make their own conclusions, but he sold it for 500 million. I think it's called Elsevier or something. But anyway, now the 5 main companies involved in publishing are all owned by BlackRock and Vanguard. So even though there's 5 of them, the top 3, the main shareholder in each is BlackRock or Vanguard, and if it's BlackRock, Vanguard's number 2. So it's all monopolised, and then they're the same companies that own Merck and Pfizer. So it's all one big shitstorm, right?
So just if anyone doesn't know, what does peer review mean? Because you will hear, especially working with people who are medical, they love a peer review.
Oh, it's the Bible. So the peer review process, right, is you submit a paper to a journal, like the Lancet's probably Nature and the Lancet are 2 of the best journals in the world, right? And Andrew Wakefield was in the Lancet.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Then they had to retract it, because obviously it goes against the grain, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But peers aren't paid. So if you're peer reviewing a paper, you're not paid. Like, the peer review process was started to try and make it harder for people to publish bad science. In theory, it sounds okay, but they're not paid. So it's unpaid work. Now that might go, well, that's good. It's not really, because what's the incentive then to review fairly?
So is this as in scientists and peers of the same industry? Or?
Yeah, but mostly. So again, that also leads to gatekeeping, because you might have a novel idea and they're all wrapped in their own ways. So it's open to that. It's open to bias from the industry. But the fact that they're not paid, I think, opens them up then to being both other ways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
well, they could work for a company who's got a
agenda. It does, and also the way it works in that industry, right? Think about it like this. If you get your papers published or papers you've reviewed, then you move up the pay scale ladder in terms of jobs with these other industries. We see it with the FDA or the CPC, the big pharmaceutical. It's called the revolving door. So you'll work at Merck for 10 years, be the CEO, and you go straight to the regulatory company that's meant to regulate it. That's a bit dodgy, isn't it? That doesn't sound right to me. Or you should be able to work for the FDA for 10 years and then move from a regulatory body into industry. That just promotes industry capture. You know, if you look at the universities, they're all being funded by these same vested interests who run the pharmaceutical companies or the petrochemical companies, because that's what they are. So it is really complex, but it's set up in a way that really supports malfeasance and corruption.
I'll say, it's like, for someone who has not got a clue and say they're looking into this, it's like a lot for your brain to process, to the point that you think, I can't do this. You know what I mean?
Well, I think a good way to look at it is, right, is even though everyone just talks about Wakefield, says there's no science saying that vaccines cause autism, if you literally just put in ChatGPT now, give me 30 studies linking pokes to autism, you might not all be peer reviewed, but you'll get 30 straight away.
I was going to say, let's move on to the autism.
Okay, well, just while I'm on this then. So the science exists on both sides. So you can't say I'm following the science anymore. You can say I'm following the consensus and with the mainstream science.
Yeah.
Or you can say I'm following the fringe science. But there is no the science. There's 2 sciences. So which one are you following? Right? Now, if we look at the autism thing, let's talk about Hannah Polling's case. Her dad, Dr. Polling, was a neurologist at Johns Hopkins. He took her for the MMR. Within days, she was non-verbal, no eye contact. So he done research on her. Even her mum was also involved in high-level medicine. And then when they got to vaccine court, they had a paper that demonstrated that she had autism post-poke. And when it went to vaccine court, he was paid millions. And they accepted that Hannah's autism was triggered by the pokes. However, they used semantics. They said, it's not autism, it's autism-like symptoms.
What's the difference?
Don't know, because you only define autism by its symptoms. There's no brain scan for autism.
Okay.
You can't have the flu or flu-like symptoms.
So you can't take a blood test for autism?
No. Nope.
Okay. So,
Nope.
and also, it's based on observation.
Yeah.
So
you can't, you've either got autism or you haven't, right? In that same year, hundreds or thousands of vaccine core claims for poke-induced autism were denied. Now, they said Hannah Poling had a mitochondrial predisposition. That's what caused it.
how do we know anyone else?
Well, 50% of the kids haven't got that, or 20% of them, because we're not screening for it.
Okay.
We talk about it, the MFTHR gene. It seems like, children with that gene are unable to detox, and it's to do with methylation, glutathione, folic acid. I believe children with that don't have as much aluminium or mercury as we might.
Yeah.
So there's clearly different pathways there's different levels to our detoxification pathways, different ability levels to do it.
So what I'll get from that is the thing where I think that sounds like, it's like we're all so different, but they'll give blanket policy, which they do for maternity care, they do for pathways, NHS Trust, everything's blanket policy, but then in that case they're saying, oh, well, she was individual and she was different.
So what I say is medicine should be precision. Coaching should be precision. When I'm coaching an individual, I don't teach him what I want to teach. I have a look at where he's up to and I go, right, you need to work on this. Medicine should be the same. There should be no blanket medicine policies. It all should be precision medicine. Do you know what I mean? I'll go and carry on with the autism thing. I mentioned him earlier, Professor Chris Exley. He looked at aluminium. He's one of the world leading researchers in aluminium. He injected fish with aluminium and it created autism-like symptoms in fish. And he reversed it with silicon. He's an amazing researcher. But again, he's been made into a quack now. He couldn't get research and money, couldn't get funding, so he done a GoFundMe. He got over 100 grand. He shut his GoFundMe down, and now I think they made it illegal to fund poke research if you don't use one of the main funding streams. So you can't raise your own money for poke research. Why? Isn't that bizarre?
Yeah.
But anyway, Chris Exley, he also found high levels of aluminium in the brains of children with autism.
And this is where those ingredients are crossing the blood-brain barrier.
Well, let's get into this, right? So the blood-brain barrier is underdeveloped when you're born, right? Now, in the pokes, we have, there's 3 types of poke, right? We have live vaccine, one live virus one, and we have ones that are attenuated.
That dead? Does that mean dead?
Yeah, weakened, and now you've obviously got the new
next
right? Okay, which are just...
That's conversation for another day.
So you've got these live, you've either got these live apparent viruses, you've got these attenuated or weakened ones, and what happens is they add aluminium to it, phosphate or hydroxide, and that is a nanoparticle. So it binds tightly to the virus, which in Latin means poison anyway. And they also add something else. They add emulsifiers, which we see in food.
Yeah.
And the 2 main ones is polysorbate 80, which we use a lot of, and sorbitol. Now, what I find totally bizarre is prior to them using these in the pokes, they actually found a way to increase chemo uptake into the brain by 10-fold. So I give you a chemo drug that I want to go into your brain, it's not going in enough.
Is this for like a brain cancer?
Yeah. So you've got brain cancer, and he went, I know, let's put an emulsifier in. Wow, we've got 10 times more into the brain. Let's put them in the jabs, and let's just assume that they don't do that anymore. So if I say to you, right, I've got petrol here, it's flammable on you, but it's not flammable on me. So what we've got is we've got these known mechanisms of action. We know how emulsifiers increase. It's still in some multi-use flu vaccines.
Okay.
It's still in some flu vaccines and some poke vials. I believe it's been removed from the childhood poke schedule. Okay, now thimerosal is a mercury compound, and again, they've done no safety tests on it. And if you don't believe me, Google Congressman Dan Burton, Eli Lilly.
Okay.
And it'll come up a YouTube video.
I'm going to put everything in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll have all this anyway. But sometimes people want the instant gratification. And you'll see this Dan Burton. So you're telling me that in 1914 or 1927 or whatever, you tested this mercury on people who were dying of meningitis and they all died anyway, so you said it was safe. And he's going, yeah. And he's just like, whoa, you're putting this in kids and you've got no safety data. But what they say is, the other mercury is more toxic, right? But actually, found another study where when they test it, no, the one they're putting in the jabs is worse than the one in the thermometers. It increases cell death. It's even more toxic. So that's ethyl mercury. So they just lie through the teeth. And this, where I get fluid, I'm like, No, they're doing it on purpose. You can't convince me now this is incompetency.
Yeah.
You've got ingredients like thimerosal being added and then removed. Now, thimerosal is a mercury compound, and there was a guy called William Thompson with the CDC, and he admitted that you can get someone secretly recorded him admitting that he destroyed all the evidence that there's higher rates of autism in black boys, 3.7 times if you get any thimerosal containing vaccine. And in the end, he changed it so it creates ticks just to try and. But he admitted that he destroyed that, and nothing's happened. He hasn't been fired, and he didn't get put in, but there was no follow up. So he's like an old school whistleblower. Do you know what I mean? And then I'll be honest, the biggest ingredient that makes me sick about folks, it's the cell lines. So let's talk about this, right? Let's talk about the polio vaccine for a second. To prove that polio was caused by a virus, they used human feces of 2 boys who had paralytic polio, and they got the feces and they injected it into the brains of baby mice, and the baby mice got paralysed. Now, I think the boys had lead, so if that's the case, then...
But sorry, can I just say, from a common sense, injecting anything into a brain is going to have an effect?
Well, this is what they were doing in 1888 anyway. That's how long ago it is, before they even... There's no electron microscopes with this virus idea. They made it up, in my opinion. It's all about explaining toxins away. So anyway, the autovirus, you're toxic, you're in a state of detoxification. Now, that's why your boiler has a flu on it, because that's where all the shit comes out. Flu symptoms are just healing modalities. So yeah, the polio vaccine, they got this human shit, and they said, yeah, there's polio in that. And then what they done was, they got macaque monkeys, macaque monkeys, they got 50,000 of them, and they killed them and took the kidneys, and then they ground the kidneys up to make a culture to grow the human shit in. Now, it became expensive to get these monkeys. It took 50,000 monkeys from about Africa or something. So they said, we need something cheaper. So they got this woman who was dying of cervical cancer called Henrietta Lacks. Henrietta was like a mother of 4 or something. She was a middle-aged woman and she was dying of cervical cancer. So they let her die, and then they took her cervix and they created a cell line out of her cancerous cervix called a HeLa cell, H-E-L-A, named after her. So they're injecting you with
cell lines from
a human dead cervical cancer. Come off it. Now, in the pokes, they mix all these ingredients, right? And then they like what they say. They almost imagine it's like a sieve, right? Now, the sieve has to be small enough to get out any big impurities, but it can't be too small, because then the virus particles won't get through. Right? So they admit that with the virus particles, what else gets through is something called residual DNA. You ever heard that term? No. So, for example, right, the MMR is cultured in MRC5.
Are these the aborted?
These are the aborted babies. So MRC5 is an aborted baby boy from 1966. They're still using him today, this poor baby boy. Now, Stanley Plotkin is one of the fathers of pokes. Stanley Plotkin is one of the godfathers of pokes, right? And there's a 9-hour video of him under oath on YouTube. And one of the people interviewing him says, when you inject people, is the possible you're injecting them with human DNA from the cell lines? Could the body create an autoimmune response to that human DNA? He actually says, yeah, it's called like self-attack antibodies. Why did my body attack my lung tissue? What was I injected with?
Lung tissue.
I was injected with male lung tissue with nanoparticulates attached to it.
Even, without like this background stuff, even for me, as say I was sitting on the outside not knowing stuff, even the thought of injecting all this mad stuff into a human...
it's pure black magic. I don't think it's
creepy.
Yeah. No, it's really disgusting.
Yeah,
no, it's there.
So with regards to what I wondered about is females being injected with male DNA, males being injected with female DNA.
You've got ones like WI38. That's a female cell line.
That makes me wonder what's it doing, and especially with the lifestyle that a lot of kids are living now, is that having an effect?
No, it could be. Plus, you've got all the endocrine disruptors in the water and the food, plus all the propaganda. So you've got potential genetic problems going on. Chemical through the endocrine disruptors,
even blue light,
and mental. So see how they're attacking that on 3 ways.
Yeah.
And if you can destroy gender, you can destroy sexual reproduction. And if you can destroy the family unit, you can reduce sexual reproduction.
Yeah.
And what is one of the main aims of the people who rule the world right now?
Depopulation.
Exactly. So it all ties together. It all goes hand in hand, doesn't it?
So tell me a little bit about, obviously we've spoken outside of this, the gaps in the safety data.
This is, forget everything else I've said. This alone, this is it.
This should be alarm bells.
This is it. This is why no one can ask you any questions or pressure because of what I'm about to tell you now. So, in the Western world, we talked about it earlier, we've said in the 1800s, you might be able to justify giving a kid all these pokes, right? But what in the Western world are we not dying of? Infectious diseases. No, kids aren't dying from infectious diseases. Anyone who says they are is a liar.
Yeah.
They're not. What are kids getting now? Cancer. What are most adults who want a baby have to go through?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, we're on to sons. We now live in a society where the kids are getting cancer at a much higher rate than ever before, and infertility is now a massive problem. It's controversial, but there's a lot of research coming out now that freezing eggs and IVF babies have higher rates of all this chronic disease anyway.
Well, I'll just say that I've just literally heard something and it was saying you are not getting pregnant on purpose because, as well as the IVF, you're not getting pregnant on purpose, but also if you're forcing your body into a pregnancy that it's not ready for, why do you think your baby's not going to suffer for it?
Exactly, it makes sense. 13.1, right? And again, if you're dealing with health professionals, never tell them this information. You only ask. You only ask. So I'm going to tell you about it now, but if you ever bring it up with a health professional, you only ask about it. So you're a health professional, you're pressuring me to take the job. I say to you, have you read 13.1 on the internet? And I can guarantee you, they haven't. The only place they will have heard about that is from someone like us. And they might say, yeah. I've actually had one person say, yeah.
Yeah, you read it.
What did it say again? That's what she said. She went, it's been ages since I've read one. And I went, well, it should have stood out because it really stood out to me. And she went, go on, tell me. So I said, it said, this poke has not been tested for its carcinogenic potential or its ability to impair fertility or cause mutagenicity. Okay? So this product has not been evaluated for its carcinogenic potential. Okay? So why is anybody injecting a baby with a potentially deadly product, even if it's got 1,000,000% efficacy? It's
not been tested for that.
No. Right, I can give you now the flu jab. It's got 1,000,000% efficacy. You can never ever get the flu again, but you'll be dead in 3 weeks from cancer.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. That's what I mean, but it's not been tested for that.
Yeah, well, that's just circular logic, isn't it? Yeah. You can't have a product that is to promote health. It works at stopping pertussis, or it might give you cancer. I don't know. You cannot put that on the market. It's completely ridiculous. Safety is priority. Then you talk about, but they go, it's safe and effective. Like, there was a group of Danish researchers went into Africa and they found that girls given the DTP poke had, even though they had less rates of diphtheria, tetanus and pertussis, right? But they had 5 times higher all-cause mortality. Now, obviously, there's critics to everything, and I know you're in Africa. There's a lot of confounding variables, but I just find that interesting.
Is it like they because of the cash side of it, they can say it's safe, but it's only in this column. It's not whole life.
Well, I just think it's to do with the brainwashing, isn't it? So, like, as well as them not being tested for what we just said, right? They're also not tested for being given in combination. Right. So there's a brilliant video on YouTube of, if type in ACIP, the Advisory Committee on Immunisation Practices. Oh my God, please watch this. If you are a parent and you think these people do science, watch this video. It makes me angry, but it's also quite funny. Like, they're half like, I don't know how to describe them, they're like unhinged, they're like proper.
Do they love it?
The evil, right? The proper evil.
Yeah.
And they're like, hi guys, shall we start giving them in all their arms on the same day? And they're all like, yeah, we've got no data at all to say it's safe or not. And they're like, well, should we do a vote? And they're all like, yeah, let's do a vote. And then we all vote, and it's like, oh, it's proper, it's unhinged. That's how they decided it's safe to have 6 vaccines in one day. That's it. And they go, we'll check the post-market and surveillance. Marketing, because it's business. Yeah. So what that means is we'll give them all it, and then we'll see what happens. But they don't even do that. Then when they put it out there, anyone who gets into, they go, oh, it's something else. And then they don't even put your report on yellow card or VARS. So there's not even a reporting system for poke injuries. The whole system at every level just gaslights you. Just gaslights you. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And that's how we went from autism being almost non-existent to like everyone having big coloring, oh, brilliant autism. It's still Profound autism.
I think I was
It's
about to
not.
say, I think they're gaslighting people. Like, why are you not accepting autism? And it's like, no, there's 20-year-old grown men in nappies who are violent and they're having to have full-time care.
I worked in that job for 7 years. Do you know what I mean? So it's all right celebrating it if it's all right for you, but it's not for everyone. And I know a lot of parents who children have got profound autism. They say literally he had one of them pokes and then he had seizures, he had a raging fever. 36 hours later, dead to us. And if we look at the ingredients we talked about before, didn't we? All these ingredients are going to the brain. These vaccine, these poke inserts list encephalitis and encephalopathy as potential side effects, right? Well, if you Google encephalitis, it's basically autism. So what's going on here?
It's like, as well, even though that it's like, and it is that cognitive dissonance, you are showing them an insert that they have created. You could show that to a nurse, I know for a fact, in GPs, and they'd still deny.
Yeah, they tell it's extremely rare. Well, how do you know?
Yeah.
How do you know it's extremely rare? Because all these things are skyrocketing. So why is it not that?
Yeah.
Like, but again, if you're at the point where just one study can sway you, then you're in the cult of scientism still.
Yeah.
Like, even when I get a study that confirms my bias now, I have to step back and remind myself that all of that is just open to corruption.
Yeah.
And what will always supersede any of that is my discernment. My understanding of the body, health, my own children, the pharmaceutical industry, how the government works, how the media works. I like to put all that info into my decision making, not one doctor or one person like me or one study.
Yeah.
None of these things are absolute. None of them.
I think as well, like, people will message me, they probably do to you, but people say, I'm being pressured to give me baby XYZ, what should I say? And I say, you need to research, because if I can tell you what to do, a doctor can tell you what to do. You're going to be swayed by one person's opinion.
I've had this happen twice now. I answer the phone to people I know. Dean, tell her, lad, tell her. No, they've just had a baby and they're trying to put me onto the nurses. Going, we don't want them. Wait, I am not your... Informed consent is not putting me on the phone. If you've heard me say something and you have gone and researched it and either disproved it or proved it to yourself, you shouldn't be re-quoting me.
No.
So don't do that. Just do a little bit of reading, do a little bit of research, right? And then ask the right questions and you'll get no pressure. So just like we said before, are these products, have you read an insert? Yeah. What did it say? Don't know. Well, I'll tell you what it said. They're not tested for causing cancer. One of the biggest killers of kids now. Ask the nurse. They'll answer for you. And honestly, they always go to me, no, you're right, you shouldn't take that. I get them to tell me about
I think what they think, people who are anti-veers,
they're
are aggressive. I think they think they're aggressive. They're uninformed. They've done no research. They think that they're being swayed by YouTube. What would you say? And especially, you need to come across...
Well, this is why I'm saying ask the right questions.
Yeah.
So start with 13.1.
Yeah.
And then, if you know about that, great. And then say, how many vaccines? Then say, how many pokes will you give a baby at one time? And they'll say 6. So, okay, have you got any studies on synergistic toxicity? Would your GP let you take 7 medications at once? They wouldn't. I can't mix foods. I can't give my baby 2 foods on the same day, 2 new foods. But I can have 6 pokes in different limbs, all untested, no testing, just a vote. They had a vote on it. It's hilarious. And then another one is like, are they tested against a placebo? No, they're not. They're often tested against another poke, right?
So there really is no blind studies?
There's the odd one.
Okay.
Right? And most of them end up look like...
Buried.
Yeah. So, but think about this, right? It's hard to do a good analogy on this, but I've got cookies over here and cupcakes. So Group A is eating 50 cookies a day, and Group B is eating all 50 cupcakes. Both groups get fat, so cookies don't get you fat.
It does no.
That's the logic. And if you say, how come you don't do double blind? And they say, because it's unethical to deny a child a life-saving Coke.
Not now, it's done it.
But we've just proved it's circular logic. If you can't prove it's safe, it's got no place being quoted on its efficacy. Something unproven to be safe, it's irrelevant how efficacious, but they go, no, but it's really good, it's a good product. Yeah, it's boss. Do you know what I mean? This is the mentality.
It's like complete blind faith in themselves.
That's why I see it as more of a religion now. Toch it's a religion thing. Like, one of the most important experiments, I think, that allowed Big Pharma to realise this is going to be so easy for us is the Milgram study. Are you on Milgram?
No.
Stanley Milgram, just after World War II, work for the, like, buy about everything. So he said, we want to see why the Nazis were able to slaughter Jews, right? So we're going to do an experiment, right? And in this experiment, they didn't use soldiers, and you didn't have to shoot no one. But what they done, you can watch the black and white experiment. It's amazing. So me and you go in, you're an actor, I'm not. Stanley comes in in his white coat, we're being paid like £5, which back then was a few quid, yeah? And he goes, heads or tails, and you win. And one of us is getting tested on our memory, and one of us is electric shocking the other person. Not really, you're an actor. So I'm going to be electric shocking you. So you go in another room, and I can hear you on headphones, right? Yeah. Now I'm sitting here going like, red, blue, ladybird, yellow, and you have to go exactly what I said. Now in front of me is a board, like a big circuit board, and it's got 0 to 240 volts, and it's got like danger, death, and all that. And you're getting them all right, and the Stanley Milgram's standing over me, and he's in a white lab coat. Very important, he's got his white lab coat on, because this all adds to the control. Yeah. The control. So you've got these people sitting there going, blah, 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 question it, you start getting them wrong. So first one is 5 volts. Ow! You're like, ow, ow! I'm laughing at that. Gets to like halfway, you're going, stop now. Stop, get me out, please. I don't want to do this no more. I've got a heart condition, right? And the researcher says, you must continue. You must continue. And I think it's more than 2/3 kill the person. He's an actor, so but nothing's happening, and they keep shocking. So they've done everything to make it appear like he's dead. So after the briefing, well, you just realise you've murdered someone. Why? And do you know what they all say?
I was told.
I was told to by a scientist. So that experiment has got nothing to do. Where does that transfer into a soldier?
I was about to say that reminds me of COVID.
Well, it is. It's all that they understand that we appeal to authority.
Just do my job.
So I think that sums up people's mentality. They see someone in a white lab coat or a doctor or someone from the medical field, and all they've really got is a degree.
And you submit.
Simply, it's I've got a degree, but it's about and these people leave uni or medical school, I think, indoctrinated more so than educated.
Definitely.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's at the crux of it. I don't think any of these doctors are evil.
No.
I don't think they're in on it.
No.
I don't think they realise what they're doing. I don't think they're doing it for money. Just because they're getting paid doesn't mean they're doing it for money. Yeah. It's just one of the ways it's all reinforced. Yeah. They're put on a pedestal in society. So the system is designed to poison, create new customers, gaslight anyone who questions it, and the cycle goes on. Yeah.
So going on from there, there's probably going to be people going, what do I do now? What do I do? Because the biggest question is, well, I'm getting pressured to get my baby wherever. What do they do?
Stand firm. Like, I honestly, anytime I question a health professional, all the confidence goes, right? Let's finish on this, right? This is my genuine experience, right, with the vitamin K shot on my second baby. Okay. So, nurse comes in, we're going to do vitamin K. No, you're not. Okay, why not? Because I don't want it. I'm really not for it.
Can I just say though, no should be the...
That's it, that should be it, right?
They should take it, but I know they won't.
So I said, I'm not doing that. And she said, right, well, we can't let you leave. Right? That's what she said to me. I went, oh, can't you? She went, I've got to get a doctor now. So I said, okay, can you make sure the doctor's informed on this whole thing? Because I said to her, do you know anything about this? Can you have a chat with me about it? And she went, no, I don't know. I can't talk about it. I said, do me a favour, get me a leaflet and get me a doctor then. Anyway, gets the leaflet, and I just went, right, let's see if he even knows the leaflet. So the doctor comes in now, and I go, yeah, you okay? So he said, you don't want the vitamin K? I'm like, no. And I go, do you know what the risk is? From his own doctor, and he goes, no, I don't. And I go, it's like 3 in 100,000 or whatever, that's what we can't remember.
It's 1 in 200,000.
Okay, it was low anyway, and I went, and he went, no, right? So I told him, and I went, do you think that's high risk? And he went, no, it's not actually, it's quite low. That's what he said. And I went, okay, do you know much about vitamin K? And he went, if I'm honest, I don't. So I went, okay, well, could we have a chat about it now? Because I know a lot about it, right? And he went, no, I don't know a lot about it. I'll get you the consultant. So I went, okay, the consultant. Anyway, consultant comes in, and I say, do us a favour, mate, before we even waste any more time, do you know much about vitamin K? And he goes, yeah, I do actually. I went, brilliant, okay. So I started off with, do you honestly think all babies are born deficient in something? Do you not think that's a bit ridiculous? And I could see straight away, he was like, I was like, what's it for? He said, it's clotting, it's to help with clotting. And I went, okay, what's in the umbilical cord? And he went, stem cells. And I went, what can stem cells do better than vitamin K? And he went, anything. And I went, okay, so have you created the problem in the first place by clamping the cord to make me need this vitamin K. And he went, you know what, you're right, you don't need to take this, mate. And that was it. That's my experience with the vitamin K.
I think
that's how. So no one got upset with me.
Yeah.
No one pressed me.
Yeah.
However, when I left, they tried again. I'll be bad. So they went, oh, he's gone now, let's try and get it. Okay, so they will try, but you don't have to have an eye with no one. Don't have to be nasty to anyone. They're not nasty people. They mean well, but when they realise that you're informed, they don't leave there going, oh, he was right. They just leave and go, oh, I just caught off guard. I'm still right, but he just caught me off guard. They don't literally go, hang on, why doesn't our side make sense?
Yeah.
Why can someone challenge it so easily? Do you know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying to anyone, as well, I'm not here to give medical advice, by the way. Like, it's on you. Informed consent can only be practiced by the individual or the true parent of the baby. I can't be your informed consent, because that, by definition, is you like subcontracting your decision making onto me. Don't subcontract your decision making to me or the doctor. Find where you sit between the two polarities and work from there. So I don't believe any. I think vitamin K is toxic to a newborn, hence it not being in the design.
Well, you say, and I think, but what does your research say?
Well, the research is conflicting.
Okay.
It's conflicting. So my research has led me to believe it's toxic. Okay. And it's unnecessary. People are going to not be one or the other, right? So that's okay. So what you might say is, I'm not where Dean is. Yeah. But I'm also, that does make sense. So I'm going to do oral vitamin K. Yeah. And I'm going to space that out. Because what happens with injectable vitamin K is, it's a massive dose. And that leads to jaundice or other health problems. Whereas at least if you do it orally, even though I think it's still toxic and you don't need it, at least you're doing like so many micrograms a week.
And it's through a filtration system.
And it's through a way where your body might have some chance to get rid of what's not needed. Yeah. But delayed core component is better than any vitamin. Like, again, it's all.
When you say delayed, I'd say
full.
Leave it till it's white.
Yeah. I tried to do a home birth. Both my births ended up being C-section. Right. So I'm not anti. Like my birth plan was home birth, C-section, nothing else.
No induction.
As soon as I got to the hospital, like, we're going to induce her and I'm going to get the forceps out. I went, no, you're not. And she went, oh, yes, we are. This is what she said. I went, oh, no, you're not. And she went, oh, yes, we are. Like that. And I went, oh, really? You're not having an elective C-section? She went, you can't. And I went, oh, we can't. We're 2 weeks overdue on your documents. And she went, and then she goes, are you up to date on that? The scandemic ones, and I went, no. And then she wanted to test us, and I went, no. And she went, do you know what? I'm not doing your C-section. I'm going to get someone else to do it, because I don't like your attitude. And I said, that's great. I don't want you to do it, because I don't like your attitude. Right? The next 2 nurses that came in, lovely. Next surgeon that done it, lovely. They didn't give 2 cahoots if we'd had them on. She wanted to mask up and all this. They were proper pro. She was like pro-scandemic. She's obviously got out and said they're not willing to wear them. They're not even willing to get tested. Well, the next 2 fellas come in just like, you're right, guys, lovely to us. Yeah. So it's all just
like, the thing is, people need to remember the NHS is there to save us. Like I say to people,
you're the patient.
So I say, you're not even the patient, you're the customer, and you deserve good customer satisfaction. And I think in America it's very different. Because you find your own doctor, you pay for everything yourself. People think, oh, it's free.
It's not. It's all just through Medicaid, so it's still the same. It's really the same system. They just contribute to it.
But you can fire your obstetrician in America.
It's hard. You can, right? But it's, for example, right, if you're on Medicaid, you can still only have chemo. So you might be able to go, I don't want that chemo. I'm going to go, well, no, you can't go holistic. You just go to another doctor who might give you another chemo. Yeah. So it doesn't have less control. You just got control within the monster machine. I mean, you can't pick what you want.
You know what I mean? With an obstetrician, you can fire your obstetrician. Okay. In America, you can fire
your GP, you know, just get a new one. But there's still limits to the same garbage.
In the NHS, I think people think, oh, I've just got to take what I'm given because they're giving me it for free. And I'm like, but if you're not happy with the service,
no, it's the same on both, isn't it? They're paying themselves, we're paying through taxes.
Yeah.
But, so we're both paying customers.
Yeah, but they think that they've got no control over who sees them.
No, they've got ultimate control. Everything stops at you, the patient.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's like the hierarchy and everyone else but the doctor at the top.
But we have this with, I've got a degree in sport coaching, and I find we have coaches who are coach-centred, and they think the athlete works for them. So it's the same system. Yeah. Whereas when I'm coaching, I work for the athlete. Yeah. It's about what he wants, what he needs. I might be sometimes able to guide and advise, and even help them with decision making.
Yeah.
But my job is to give them autonomy. My job is to empower and facilitate.
Yes.
That is meant to be the job of a health professional. Unfortunately, we've got a flip system, and these end up being nothing more than pharmaceutical sales reps with zero understanding of nutrition, health, pokes, autoimmune diseases. I don't think they understand these things. They are just symptom managers.
Yeah.
They're there to observe symptoms and manage them. That's the most profitable system, and that is the system of medicine that we see today.
One thing that we'll end on then, if someone has already had children or themselves who have received these injections, the damage, whatever, what can they do to help themselves?
I don't feel positioned well to talk about this, right? However, I've seen people talking about using things like zeolite, right, as a what's the word? Not leech.
Well, TRS, isn't it? Like
TRS, yeah, but there's a word, chelation. Now, some of these kids who've been chelating, the teeth are falling out, right? Because chelation doesn't just take away mercury and aluminium, it takes away magnesium and selenium, and these things we need as well. So if you are doing any of these detoxes, even the ones that all the crunchy mums are pushing, right, be mindful. Like I said, you've got to practice nuance. It's hard. It's really hard. You realise that they're poisonous, but that doesn't mean every counter product is still right or on your side. It's so hard. So yeah, like I just think, firstly, don't blame yourself. If you've got a poke injured child, it's not your fault. My mum fully believes now that I'm poke injured with the aspirin, all that type of stuff. But I don't think she feels any sense of blame, and I don't blame her. She just did what she thought was the best.
I think
what she had at her disposal.
When we talk about these things, and I know in podcasts I've done about breastfeeding and with that, people are very triggered.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to trigger you and say you're wrong. We're just saying now you know better, you can do better. So it's not a case of like you're wrong for doing something, it's just you learn.
No, as I said before, it's about informed consent. So if you're going to get your pokes, just make sure you can stand on it.
Yeah.
So if someone like me says, have you got the baby poke? You'd be able to tell me why, and it better not be a TV-generated programme response. You've actually gone and done your own work. I can't fault someone for doing that.
I'll be honest, anyone who does the research doesn't do
that.
They
might not have done it properly, but the intention's there, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I've got way more respect for anyone who's genuinely doing a bit of digging.
Yeah.
But like I said to you, that person who said to me, how do you sleep at night? No, you don't poke them. I was like, what? How do you sleep at night? Like, my kids were born perfect in the image of God. I'm not religious. There's a creator. Like, your eye is 10 times more complex than my phone, So the idea that my phone came out of an explosion is ridiculous. If I got a firework now, it exploded, and then I got a Rolex out when to come out of the bang, you wouldn't believe me. Someone has to design these intelligent things. So, without getting into religion, because I'm not religious, but there's more to life than what we're being fed, and like things like the Big Bang Theory and atheism, the religions in their own right.
Yeah.
And poke.
I say scientism.
And especially pokes.
Yeah.
They're modern day tobacco.
One thing I think the fact that they've got such, I'd say, a violent, polarising response tells me that some industry somewhere has worked very hard to create that because when we talk about it, I'm trying to think of something else that's a little bit controversial.
There's not a pure movement against antibiotics, is there?
No, even though I hate antibiotics.
There's criticism of them.
Yeah.
We all know they can make you sick.
Yes.
You've seen people have died off them and things.
100%.
No one denies that, do
No,
they? If you went in and said, I'm ill off antibiotics, everyone says, oh, you're okay, they're bad, aren't you? Why did you say that about folks? You are attacked. They come after you with pitchforks and everything.
And I think that's not accidental.
No,
it's manufactured, and we've been made out to be people who are nuts crazy. And even that in itself is suspicious.
And what you've got to remember is, do we take preventative antibiotics?
We shouldn't.
No. Do we take preventative chemo?
We shouldn't.
Do we take preventative antidepressants? Well, what are pokes? Preventative medicine, isn't it? So if you inject yourself with any of the ingredients I've listed today, you now guarantee the risk.
Yes.
The risk that you're going to get infectious disease is speculatory.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee you're going to get any disease that you've caught. But if you inject yourself with something, now the risk doesn't mean it's going to happen. Now the risk is guaranteed. So it doesn't even, in the premise of it, doesn't make sense to me. And then obviously the idea that the only way that everyone gets it, like that's just fantastic. Herd. I ain't in no herds. I
always say, when like someone will say like, blah, 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 we need to do it for the greater good. And I just think, I would never set my child on fire to keep you warm.
That's it. And what you'll find with most of this like progressive sort of
It's the lip
communism,
chart.
yeah. With this, right, what they do is they come up with these pure dictatorship control systems, and then they wrap it in lovely language, like saving the planet,
Yes.
saving Granny. Who doesn't want to save Granny? All you've got to do is inject yourself with mRNA 7 times. You can save Granny too. You can be a hero. Do you know what I mean? You can be a hero.
Yeah.
So it's all virtue signaling.
And what is it, It's the biggest marketing campaign.
Well, that's what most academic science is now, right? There's a guy called Richard Horton, and he ran the Lancet for over 10 years, I believe, in the 90s. So he was the chief editor of the Lancet. He was at a 2015 symposium, right, about fraudulent research.
Right.
And his guess was 50% of the studies going out today are fraudulent.
Wow.
50! So this is the guy who ran the Lancet.
Yeah.
There's a guy called John Ioannidis. He's from Stanford Research Institute. And he done a brilliant study. You can watch it on YouTube, document called Crisis of Science. Boss study though. Get the study up, it's dead good to read. And it's actually called Most Published Research is False. Now, he got a big team of scientists, and they tried to replicate loads of science that was like peer-reviewed on like post, chemo, and all kinds. They done multidisciplinary stuff. I can't remember what the statistic was, but it was bad. It was like 80% of it was found to be lies.
This thing you just can't. This is the thing about they said about discernment. You can't trust anything but yourself.
No, and like, but in the past, I've looked into the peer review stuff when I was talking about Ghislaine Maxwell's dad being the godfather of the current model, where the publishers have a subscription model with universities and libraries, and sometimes they even write the paper first, and then go like, who wants a backhander to throw the name on it? So they're getting a paper, they have done it, going, yeah, it reads well, go on, I'll attend on the researcher. Like, that's going on. Like, they have to retract hundreds of research papers every year because they're fraudulent. So this system is it's not absolute.
Yeah.
It's not a religious Bible.
Yeah.
You can't just go, got a peer-reviewed study here saying that the sky's pink.
Yeah.
It's still blue.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So let's finish on that. Discernment is king. Yeah. Informed consent is king.
Yeah.
And the buck stops with you.
Yeah.
So anytime you feel pressure, remember, stand in your power, because you can't. If you put this in, you can't get it out.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, be sure. It's the amount of mums who walk into a doctor's office and their gut is screaming at them to not do it. Their instincts are right, but they're being...
So I often read comments in comment sections, anti-pope videos that I see, and you'll see hundreds of these parents over time going, I knew it. My gut told me that I still did it, and I can't live with myself. And now he's 17 and he wears a nappy. They've got to live with that for their whole lives. Even if they get these speculatory diseases, still only like a 1 in a million chance they're going to get a severe one. It's really low. And the kids who do suffer bad from measles have got compounded issues. Yeah. So if you've got a healthy child, what are you worried about? Keep them healthy. Stay away from hoax. That's my message. But ultimately, it's on you. Buck stops with you. Practice informed consent.
I'm going to list everything we spoke about.
I'll do a resource list of book places to read. And again, just don't get overwhelmed. Yeah. Just try and practice nuance and just, you know.
One thing that I found helpful in the very beginning is I'd get an insert, I'd look at the ingredients and I'd just Google and research that one first ingredient and see how it affects you. It's simple.
Formaldehyde. Is it a carcinogen? Yes.
Does it preserve dead bodies?
Is it in popes? Yes. Are they tested for carcinogenicity? No. There you go. So now we're getting somewhere. That's a carcinogen. It's in the poke, not tested for carcinogenicity. Cancer's on the rise. This is the sort of detective work you've got to do as a parent. Sounds dead obvious.
Right. Thank you for listening to Against the Grain, where we give perspectives, not prescriptions. Do not take everything we've said as Bible. Do your own research, guys, because honestly, it will change your life once you're down the rabbit hole, though.
Yeah.
The world is not as you see it.
Be careful down there.